Hey friends and family, hey loved ones. Hey, I wanted to share some things that have come up in the last couple days, couple weeks, couple months, and yeah, all the alchemy that I've been blessed to work with and receive. Oh my goodness. It's been so really intense lately and amazing and just bizarre, really. Like with everything, accepting everything, having all of these discarded, rejected, judged, misperceived parts, like, come back together and ask to come home, like, kind of by looking outside and looking at the freak show out there, and how it's like being played out, like, in such an extreme level and like a caricature way. And like with all of these people that are pretty much screaming for self-love and acceptance, but they demand it from other people, and they demand justice, and they demand like remediation or some kind of comfort, or some kind of power from someone else, and they just don't know that it is within themselves, and they haven't been able to find that. And it's just like that reliance on like an external authority, like a false authority, a false medium, so that we like can have some kind of power or some kind of security, safety, little net to hold us or whatnot, because we haven't felt, held or supported or accepted or anything, because, like the ways that culture and life and this system, this parasitic system has been set up to be, it doesn't provide for that. So it's interesting that, like, everyone's aware, like, of what's not working, but like, there's a certain group that has created a narrative that has steered people to blame another group of people, and like, set up like a whole new system and cult of trauma bonding and claiming your identity, and like sort of hijacking the hero's journey and using like all of the anger, like the righteous anger, to fuel like something that actually just holds us back, keeps us in the same system, keeps us enslaved to our old patterns in like clever, sneaky ways, like thinking that this is the way to liberation and empowerment, when really it's like more of enslavement and giving our power away and destroying ourselves, like self-destructive patterns, and a new level of like victim consciousness, and hating certain things about ourselves and needing somebody else to fix it or to make it better for us, or to accommodate like the pain that we've created for ourselves and make us comfortable in it. And it's just like so Brave New World and so 1984, with like all the emotional dysregulation, and then like the constant need for soma, or like that click 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 on the dispenser to bring your levels back to where you want them, because, and everybody else, it's so funny, like the way like the buttons, like what those could really symbolize and represent and things, and it's just so kind of funny and weird. Trippy to see like all of this kind of stuff playing on the outside, like on that virtual stage, and what is presented to us as reality, and the mentality of the collective, and so it's like a lot of individualism and a lot of collectivism, and like Yeah, so many misperceptions in the shadow side of oneness and the shadow side of love and tolerance and equality and unity and pride, you know, like all of those things. It's so just wow, mind-blowing. And so it just always gives me things to think about, like within myself. Like it's just like such a soap opera on the outside, and they've tried so hard to make us divide on so many levels. Excuse me. Oh yeah, just going through like some throat clearing and stuff. And oh my god, the last video that I did just to speak out some stuff for myself, because I've been so lost the last couple weeks, and knowing how to sort like some things out that I really ignored, and then like I just kind of had to face and kind of look at for my own self, and things that relate like to what I'm going through myself. And so, oh man, just some of the insecurity on not being able to speak about things because I didn't want to create division, or I didn't want to bring it up or let like certain counter viewpoints or perceptions get in the way of sharing like my story or my feelings or my experience. Like I wanted to be vague and not specific about certain things, just kind of be a little more, I guess, generic, and just thought it would be a little more relatable, like in certain ways. I didn't want to bring up like hostility or like outright rejection, like talking about like some of the things that I see, and censoring myself in certain ways because I didn't want that to get in the way, but it really was a disservice. And then like finally like wanting to talk about like some of the things that have really been like really feeling conflicted about, and wanting to work some stuff out and really talk about those things, and just bring it up, bring it into the light. I just felt like, oh, how am I going to do that and not like seem like a bigot or like a whatever the fuck, whatever label is unacceptable, by talking about like certain things that I'm seeing, and that like it seems like the collective is very divided about, like extremely polarized on certain issues. And it's just like, I gotta talk about those things. I gotta be a little more honest and specific about like certain topics that I'm talking about, or that I'm using as a mirror for my own self to see like what needs to be healed in myself, like with the things that I see on the outside of me that look so harsh, devastating, just wrong sometimes, just like backwards and ridiculous and whatnot. And so sharing what I needed to share in my last 2 videos, I had like a interesting thing that happened to me like the next day. So during my last video, my throat was so sore, it was all I could do really just to speak as loud as I did, because that was as loud as I could speak. And it was like, it took so much energy for me to be able to speak like what I did. And but I needed to do it for myself. And even though I was like super tired, it was just like, there was one part of myself that was like, no, I just need to like, just, even though I've been writing and stuff, I just need to like talk about this just for my own self, and like, just put it out there, because I need to share this. Like, no matter if anybody else sees it or hears it or understands it or agrees with it, I need to do it for me, and just share my own experience and acknowledge it, and speak it. Speak it out. For myself or where I am. And because, I do want to resolve some things within myself about like where we've been split and where we've been interfered with, and where we have been traumatized and wounded and betrayed and rejected and hurt and cast aside and all of those things. That's why I feel like we're seeing all this crazy shit on the outside, like where people are acting out all these things and manipulated into so many things, and there's all these shadow behaviors, and it just looks like a free-for-all, but there's so many things we can see about it, like if we can connect some of the dots, like with what's being exploited and how we're being manipulated, like to destroy ourselves and to destroy our livelihoods and our community. And community is a weird term as well, which I'll get into at a later time. But like our environment, our home, like the place that we live, like our own neighborhoods, our own families, the connections, the relationships that we have, those have all been under assault. And it's just devastating to me, like the psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual warfare that we've had to deal with or been going through without even knowing, like, how to respond to that and make sense of anything. And so, speaking some of that stuff out and having just such a sore throat and really just needing to do that. And then routines were disrupted, and like my sleep schedule's been all over the place, and routines have been just not at all. Like it's like Uranus, like experiencing the Uranus-Mars transit, like, and just weird astrological things, astral things. All the light codes coming in right now, like making us a little uncomfortable because it's showing us like where we've been living against like our own selves and against our own truth, and it does feel all wonky and crazy and uncomfortable, and it is just like helping us, like, oh my god, like getting us to be like more receptive to some things that we just like can block out and ignore because we distract ourselves with other things. But then it's just like it just can't sustain like any longer, and so it's just like that's why it's like, oh, it's so crawling out of the skin, kind of like everything. But I went to sleep, and a few hours later, I woke up, and I haven't had anything going on, and I'm all alone this week. Like, I'm totally in my own solo retreat and my own hermiting stage right now, so it's just like, what do I want to do? I don't have any other responsibilities or obligations besides, like, the things that I get to take care of, like, certain things, but pretty much I have, like, all of this time and space on my hands. And it's just like, what do I even do? What do I want to do? And it's just like, wow, I can see where I fill up some of my space with so many things so that I don't have to face some of the things within myself. And I can just see like certain, patterns and strategies. And that's uncomfortable for me too. And then just a lot of things, worries and fears about, oh my God, things are changing so fast, and got to be prepared for certain other things. and gotta lay the groundwork for other things. And there's all these things that I've had on like a list, you know, and it just like paralyzes me sometimes, like. And so it's been like another surrender. Just be here and just have fun with whatever you can. Like, you can just be here and choose whatever you need. But yeah, all this love is for you, so receive what you need for you and your well-being, and focus on the love right here and what helps you feel alive and joyful and grateful and faithful, like all those things. So I'm doing my best to choose all that in this time of uncertainty and instability and awkward change. And so I was laying on the couch a lot of the day and just feeling all of these fears coming up the next day, like after I did my videos, and like all of these fears, all of these weird like fears coming up that I had no idea, like. And some of my old response or reaction was like to figure it out and to like control or manipulate or, you know, like analyze it. But then I would just let go, like acknowledge it and let it move and just lean into it and breathe into it and let it go. But it was so awful and it was so uncomfortable, and it just was like nonstop for a couple hours, and it was just like so intense. Like, this was the day after the summer solstice, and like the summer solstice was like the most high vibe, the most amazing, the most beautiful, brilliant day. Like, reminded me like how beautiful life was and everything, and the sunshine just felt so amazing, and everything was so beautiful and radiant and glowing, and just good. I felt so good. And like, some of me wanted to question, like, why do I feel so good? What did I do? Like, so I could recreate that instead of just like being in a thank you, like, here this is, you know. And it was just like, some of me wanted to like keep that going in a way, and so I did push it like a little too much, and I felt a little bit sick when I went to bed, and realized, that's an old pattern. Or like the bliss bunny highs and being addicted to that, and not being like, not anchoring and grounding it in and paying attention to when I need to rest, and like all these things. This is like, and then there's this one side of me, it's like that perfectionist. It's like, you're doing it wrong. But it's just like, I just get to see like this is how like the energy goes, and this is how like I can be a better steward of my own energy, like by recognizing these things and not like feeling guilt or shame about them, and embarrassment, and not enoughness, and all that about like how, you know, I've just learned to be or strategize or, you know, substitute things and survive, and just to like, adapt. And that's, none of these are bad things at all. Just like what works better for me and what's not working as well for me. And it's been like a little hard, like, to feel like I can change or transform some of those things because it's comfortable and familiar, and all those things. So yeah. And so some of the things that I've realized lately that have been huge, like, because of going through all those fears and just letting them go and letting them move, because they're old things. Oh my God, like, just old beliefs and old implants and programming and stuff. Like, whoa. But being able to see, like, and just allow that to move through and everything, even though it's just like constant And I even asked for help. Oh my God, thank you. Like, please help me to have strength through, like, all these things, like, and not, like, get attached or hooked into some of these thoughts and fears, but acknowledge them and know that they're here, and, like, and know that, yeah, it's okay for me, and nothing's wrong with me, and nothing's wrong with this, and all of those things. So, yeah, after I went through that for a few hours, and I was just relaxed, finally, and, remembering some certain things. I realized that I was afraid of being seen as certain things, and that was blocking me from being truthful and being authentic and being true to myself. And because, like, certain things were the worst things to be, and I couldn't be that, like, and I resented that. Like, how dare you lump me in this category? When I've always been, like, some kind of a rebel and a nonconformist in certain ways, even though I'm a people pleaser and whatnot. But, like, I've always railed against the status quo, and, like, there is even times when, like, a couple years ago, like, yeah, it all blurs together for me, like, since I'm almost 50 now. But, like, man, there is, like, this spectrum of years where it's like I'd show up to, like, sporting events and, like, different things, and I would be the only person not standing for the national anthem at the sports events, because I was like, this is bullshit, this is programming. Why am I going to pledge my allegiance to this shit? I know what it's all about. It's about domination, control. It's all this fucking, like, oppression, like, false power. And it was just like, oh, it left such a bad taste in my mouth. And I was just like, I'm not going to stand for this stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I wasn't, like, I didn't want to be confrontational, but I was just like, oh, I'm not doing that. Just kind of stuff like that I would just do, not for, like, attention, or not because, like, I wanted to be special, but it was just like, I'm not doing that. Like, I have the courage to, like, not do that, like, not go along with that. And some things, like, that I didn't go along with, I felt, like, pretty prideful about, like, kind of snobbish about, like, haven't liked, like, pop culture and, like, that kind of pop music and that bullshit. And it's just, like, fucking nails on a chalkboard to me. Like, really, a lot of the stuff, like, that's pushed on us. And, like, I haven't watched TV for over a decade, like, your traditional TV with, like, all the bullshit, but, like, obviously I'm exposed to a lot of media still, and that, like, is a little different, and hooked into, like, yeah, some of the other psychological traps of, that Black Mirror and whatnot. But, like, yeah, because, like, I have always cared about, like, social justice, like, not in the way that it's being propagated and pushed now, but, like, in, like, yeah, love and freedom and, goodness and prosperity and abundance and liberty, like, yeah, happiness and, like, all that space, like, for everything that we all want for ourselves, for everyone else. Like, I've always been about that, and cared about the earth and, like, animals and everyone. I love people. I love life. But, like, yeah, it's been harsh. And so I can see why people get all bitter and angry and, like, confused and want to jump on their high horses and, like, do something to fix things. But, like, that road to hell is paved with the best intentions and whatnot. And so, like, it's just been so funny in a way, like, how the years have unfolded, and all of a sudden I'm put into a box of a right-wing extremist and whatnot, and it's just so weird because of my own lifestyle. It's never been like that. And yeah, because I've been open-minded and experimented with all sorts of things, and I just, like, appreciate so many different paths and experiences, like with all the different religions and traditions, and I just find so much beauty in all of it, and so much beauty like in every color, every creed, every race, every one, like all the things, like all the mythologies, all of the traditions like that there are. And it's just so funny that I just get automatically lumped into this worthless, devalued box of intolerant, ignorant, dumb fucks, like, and, that's pretty harsh. I really hated the right for a long, long time because of my own wounds of spiritual abuse and emotional and mental and psychological abuse, and, like, the structures of inverted Christianity, and, like, the shame and the guilt and programs in some of those systems. Yeah, they were totally hijacked to, make us feel bad about ourselves and disconnected from God. But there is truth in them, and I know love in them. And there are people there that do share that love, and that is the light in them. Like, people like those, the truth in that religion that shines through and lives through it and is embodied in those people that live those values and things. That's what is the truth about it. And so, I can always see that for myself, but I didn't want to be lumped into a category of a right-wing extremist and everything. That was like one of the worst things, and it was just like, okay, well, if that is the worst thing you can be, like, okay, accept it. Like, if that's part of your shadow side, and that's like the monster you get to be, or the monster you get to play, or the monster that you get to be perceived as, then okay, I'm willing to be that villain and that monster and that label, like, because there's nothing I can do not to have it put on me. Like, if I, just not take it personally. And it's just like, like, part of me knew that already, but it's just like, I didn't know, like, how much, like, certain things, like, that I was so against being would hinder me in being, like, myself. And so just, like, accepting, like, those things that really aren't, like, it's a distorted version. But, like, okay, I'll, just, like, let that go. There's nothing I can do or change about that, or make someone else see what they're, not gonna see. Like, just because it's not about me, or what I believe or what I see. It's about them and what they're attached to and what they need to cling to or see in order to justify and be, comfortable in their own selves. And it's just like, you know what, stop letting, like, some of this stuff not, define me, like, and trying to be something that I'm not, because I don't want to be what I'm not. And it's just ridiculous logic and silly, like, loops, like hamster wheel loops, and mechanisms to keep me from, being centered, embodied, and true. Like, trying to prop up the false self, something that I'm not, because so I can protect myself and create safety and security, and being seen as something that pleases, for my benefit, and so, but it's really for my small self's benefit, and that's what I needed to clear through some of those things, and just kind of have trust too about some of the other fears that were coming up, some of the other things I don't want to be seen as, and letting a lot of stuff go, like the false images and the false cows, the false idols, the false self. So I've learned a lot, and just going through some major ego death and kind of just like letting a lot of stuff go, like a lot of expectations that I've had, and for myself and for others, and for like for how all of this is supposed to unfold, and knowing that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, even though it's not like where I feel like I should be. Somebody, and but I know, yeah, this is part of the journey, and just be here and accept what is, like, right now for myself, like, and like, even if it's that I see it as one way, like, what else is it, you know? So, because there's more to the story, like, sometimes. So, and so I wanted to share a little bit, and what I wrote the other day when I was going through like some of these things. It was so difficult, and I felt like this internal panic, like I needed to just breathe through it, or just remember, like, I just felt so bad. And then just remembering to breathe through it. So yesterday was such a high-vibing, fun, energizing day, and I was on cloud 9 from being with my little Ruby and our day of play and cuteness together. And I had a hard time settling down. I got a little high on my own high horse, LOL, and also just pushing it until I felt sick, and I finally allowed myself to let myself fall asleep around 8:30 in the morning, and I slept in until noon and decided to just get up for a little while, and I thought about resting and taking it easy as I was feeling pretty depleted and anxious. I had done some videos the night before, and I had been drinking a little bit of my own gin. Me and my husband call it gin. It's this homemade gin that I make with different herbs and things, and it is just so delightful, and it's very, very kind, and feel like pretty fine the next day, like after a couple drinks of it. And so it just feels like, oh man, this is nice. But like, I know this year it's all been about escapism. And like, I've been doing my best, like, to look at that and to, you know, be mindful of that as well. And balance some of that, like some of those desires and some of those like things that, and recognizing how like some of these old patterns come up when things aren't comfortable, and when just feeling unsure, and how that's just like a nice comfortable place to be in sometimes before I go to bed, like just having a few drinks and having a good old time listening to music and relaxing and whatnot. But so not like trying to be so hard on myself about all that, and enjoying like what I can choose, and you know, but yeah, being aware of what difficulties it may create for myself, like if I'm avoiding certain things by doing something that's more pleasant and comfortable and fun and easy, you know. So just looking at those things, but man, that gin is like the best stuff. I put hibiscus and chamomile and lavender and holy basil and rose hips and orange peel and passion flower and lemon balm, and it's just amazing. It's just it's such a feel good thing. It is like a tonic. And so yeah, sometimes I can get a little carried away with it, but yeah, that's just, you know, something I get to embrace in my style, and like, yeah, just how I roll sometimes. So so yeah, it's way too good sometimes, and it feels pretty good while it does. And so I wasn't hungover or anything, but I felt like an energy leak and like a lowering in frequency type of feeling, or like, and it's just like kind of like with that kind of a feeling, I'm just like, oh, what did I do wrong? And it's just like, because it don't feel so good. Like, not that it was like anything bad, but it was just like, just like a neutral space, like not like feeling like super, super like happy and giddy, but not feeling super low. And it's just like, like, can I just be here like with this? Like, why isn't that like enough? And why can't I value this, like, this part of it as much as I value like the high of it too? And then, like, it just reminds me of a saying that I used to have when I was feeling pretty low, or when things were feeling meh or kind of blah, it's just like there's value in the floppy. So it's like you can't walk around with an erection all the time, like you gotta have like some placidity. You gotta give, some space for that erection to grow or to come back and like to be turned on. And it's okay like to be like just placid and in a neutral space, and like just not constantly chasing those endorphins and like those highs and whatnot, like, because we've been so trained to be like an instant gratification all the time. And so, I think that does affect like the emotional regulation. Where, can we be content and be fine when there's not like all this exciting entertainment? Or like, can we be okay with being bored like sometimes? And like, what can that boredom or those feelings of just like rest or just, that even keel sort of, really still, that stillness, what can that give to us? What's that gift? Just to be there, with ourselves and present without expecting like another, can we, be here and restore ourselves and honor like that stillness and that like place to recharge. And to just be, like, why is that so uncomfortable just to be sometimes? Like, I don't know. Like, we're always chasing some kind of high. And that's what I've just noticed for myself. But, I noticed some energy leaks and a lowering in frequency and this type of feeling. And then it's like, it's okay. I don't really need to force anything or do anything or chase anything. But then I was starting to feel like all sorts of anxiety and restlessness, and embarrassment and fears and judgments and negative programming, like all these stories and like false voices coming in, and like a guilt, shame, and a feeling of foolishness for the overindulgences, and like, like maybe I should have done something different, and maybe I share too much on my videos, and maybe just, feeling just so awkward and uncomfortable about like so many things, about how I'm perceived and received, and all of those things. So, and so many fears coming up, and tightness or feelings of needing to breathe through it and let it go rather than try to figure it all out or bypass the feelings and emotions and distract or make myself wrong about it. Just feeling so many fears today, and also doing my best to process a lot of information and some downloads and just like personal realizations, and then some of the ego justifications and motivations, agendas, and the coping mechanisms and the defense survival strategies like that have kept me in these patterns, and the concerns like for like loved ones that I have, and like just not knowing how to show up for them, and then some feelings of panic and vulnerability and just not knowing what to do and how to be. And I just got to remember all that is whole and true, and I chose faith over fear, and trust over manipulation, and forgiveness and surrender over ego control, love over hate, fear, and greed, and peace over violence and discord, and being right. Just remembering I am worthy and we are worthy, and we are loved and we are loving and we are loved. And so just like yeah, just know that everybody's on their own path, and there's some weird shit out there, but like they're playing it out, like we're all playing it out for each other, and playing all these parts, and oh gosh, it's just humbling to like see it, and just so funny too, like with the impersonal and the personal lens. And I also got to just like sit outside and remember my Mother Earth, and like, oh yeah, I belong here. I have space here. She loves me. She holds me. She she knows me, dear. She knows what's in my heart, and yeah, she is always here, and she's in my heart, and I'm a part of her heart, and so like disconnect and root in deep, and like, yeah, claim my part in this whole, and start to like ground and anchor in like for my own soul, and not just keep floating around for anybody who wants to attach, or that I get to attach to in certain ways, because I felt so alone. And like just to be here where I'm at right now, and not seeking for any external approval or acknowledgement or validation from the outside, and just knowing my own value and my own worth as I am right now, and as I have been, and as I will be, and as I am eternally. So I am held and supported, even if I'm afraid of being misunderstood or rejected, judged, seen as an enemy or a joke, an outcast, and scapegoated, tortured, exiled, blamed, humiliated, exiled, abandoned, disliked, disallowed, displaced, dishonored, victimized, misrepresented, resented, hated, feared, scorned, devalued, demonized, canceled, and erased. I was always so afraid to be seen as a conservative or a right-wing nut job, or being lumped into a category or a box of white, rich asshole men and racist jerks. I didn't really want to be associated with Trump either, but then I actually started to like him a little bit, like to my own surprise. Like, man, this guy isn't as bad as the mainstream media is making him out to be. What's so, like, really, like, we've all had, like, freaking assholes, and they're all, like, playing a game, and it's just like, what makes him so evil and different from everyone else we've had, just because of certain things? And it was just like, wow, like, just because of, like, the programming, like, they had to give somebody, like, this boogeyman to, like, hate, and it was just like, man, after a couple years, it was like, what the hell is this really? Like, and so I had to investigate for myself, and especially like in 2019, 2020, and I was like, man, I really don't think he's like, I think he's still like part of that club and whatnot, but he's not like this villain that they've made him out to be, and there's not really all this like stuff that like, yeah, people have been fed to believe and whatnot. Like, I think there's a little more to this story, and so it's just funny, like, kind of like looking into some things, and okay, I can see like why those people over here like absolutely love him and support him, like when I hadn't seen that before, because I just thought, oh man, this is just like another celebrity jerk, you know, whatever, and elite like asshole and whatnot. But then I was just like, oh man, I was hoping he was like what those who loved him believed he was, but like I wasn't attached to that either. And I was like, that'd be sure nice. But I was realized like when things started changing, and like some of my own like things, like I just happened to be lumped into like this category that were like Trump supporters and whatnot. It's just so funny and silly to me. Like, it was ridiculous because I've considered myself like an anarchist for like the last 10 years. And excuse me, like, yeah, not involved in like that two-winged Frankenstein bird that was like manipulated and like part of the same thing. Like, we go back and forth and back and forth. It's the pendulum swing, and they just keep pushing like different things until it's not even yeah, how like from decade to decade to decade, like you can see how the swim lanes have changed and everything. And it's just so like funny. If you're not like far seeing, you wouldn't be able to see it, like what's been happening, like, yeah, since the 50s and whatnot. And like, I'm not saying that we haven't made progress and things, but we haven't made progress because of governmental institutions. It's been our own consciousness and our own like willingness to like grow and to learn and to love each other and to love ourselves and whatnot. But like, there's these organic levels of consciousness, of course, that we would naturally grow into, or you know, grow through. And but like the, you know, these manipulators and people who interfere with us, they actually know, like, you know, how we're growing and how we're expanding and how we're evolving, and they have to like keep us in this little feedback loop and like glass, like these false glass ceilings, so that we don't get too far ahead of the game to like unravel it and see it for what it is. And it's just, yeah, been really frustrating to see how like things have been steered or made to appear a certain way, when like certain changes, like the really good changes, have been made like in certain levels through like our own hearts and our own consciousness and our own families and our own relationships. But then like, yeah, they hijack it, they revise the history, and yeah, and then distort it into something that it's not. But like, yeah, there is certain collective things that we've done together that we can see like through like, yeah, some of what's presented to us. But it's just, it's kind of funny and ironic in a lot of ways, like how things have been shown to us or presented to us, which really, like, maybe there's a little bit of truth in it, but it's very manipulated and distorted. And so, yeah, I like knew there was some kind of thing going on, like with like, okay, so archetypally, like what can Trump teach me about like the asshole and about like the corporate villain, and like this gap between value, like between like the lower class worker and the ridiculously high paid CEO, and like that gap in wealth and like in privilege, and like all of these things. Of course, we're all gonna like resent those things a little bit. Like we see like the imbalances and whatnot. And so of course it's nice to have like a scapegoat or someone to blame for all of this pain and suffering. And so like he just got to be the guy the last little bit, and like, you know, white men or in like the patriarchy and all of that got to be the villain, when we're really playing more into like the fallen patriarchy by being so against it in so many ways. Like, and it's just funny how our blind spots, how like with our blind sides, we haven't really been able to see like how we've been manipulated into playing into it to the nth degree, and how we've all participated and contributed in it, and how we've all suffered because of it. But then it's always nice to have a scapegoat because of, yeah, what's being fed to us. And so so the more the mainstream media made him out to be a villain, a super villain and a monster, and constantly attacked him and justified it as if he was the most crude, terrible, dangerous man in the world and the most despicable human being ever to live. And LOL, LOL, why would they even do that? What and how much did they have to lose or to gain by doing that? And so, well, it didn't make much sense to me, except to think that he might be dismantling their inverted and perverted programs and structures of illegitimate authority and self-serving fascist agendas to enslave everyone in a totalitarian system. But yeah, today, for the first time, I decided to let go of being mislabeled, misperceived, misunderstood, misheard, yeah, misperceived, like all those things. And like we're assumed to be like a right-wing extremist or whatever, supremacist, bigot, phobic. And man, what a dirty, dirty, and ugly thing to be. Ah, don't be that. You know, like, I'm not going to let these bullies, like, tell me what I am and what I'm not. And so, you know, fuck that. So I'm just going to be as kind and as graceful as I can and speaking my truth and what I see and not worry about, like, how they're going to see me and let my actions and my words and my love, like, speak louder for me. And so, yeah. It's, you know, like, we've been painted as the worst people in the world because we've gone, you know, against, like, the control agendas and the mainstream narratives of things. And they've inverted a lot of things and lumped us all in together. Like, but that's okay, I guess, you know, like, whatever. So all of us that don't subscribe to the woke ideologies and the control structures of the false matrix. It's funny how the wokies get so enraged about being crammed into a box that they do not want to claim or do not want to be identified, labeled, or seen as, named as, or associated with. But, like, they have everybody who doesn't agree has no problem with labeling or putting someone else in a box. Like, even though it's not a box, like, they want to be put into, and they're demanding that everybody, like, conform to the labels that they want. And it's just so funny, and it's just, like, it's such a caricature, and it's such a weird circus, like, clown world show. It's like the hypocrisy and the double standards and everything. Wow, like, what a blind side, you know. And so just remembering that to focus on whole new ways of being. Let's please, you know, let go of how we box ourselves or others in, like, you know, to one angle, because we're multidimensional. We're not just like an object that is like this one thing. We're so multi-layered and multifaceted, and, like, we're the only ones that limit ourselves or limit others or, you know, limit our ways of seeing by using these labels, these judgments, these boxes, and these names, and, like, do the name calling. And so, yeah, it is funny on both sides where, like, some of the people that, you know, like, that are so indoctrinated and programmed into these woke ideologies, like, man, I have compassion for them, and I could see, like, where, because of how it's been like, systemized, like, in the universities and the schools, social media, mainstream media, like kind of like a look like an octopus, you know, in every corner. And so we think that is, like, legitimate and whatnot, but it's like, it's all been orchestrated in a certain way to paint some perceptions that are not true, and really brainwash a lot of people, like, in, like, a short amount of time in certain ways, exploiting people. Like, it's all these techniques, like, that the cults use, breaking you down and then building you back up into this new image, and, like, going through this initiation of this cult, and, like, trauma bonding after, like, destabilization and demoralization, but then, like, you have a new family to come to, and then you're accepted, but, like, the party is always right, the party is always correct, the party is always moral, all of that. And then if you step out of line, you're not, you don't, you know, you're gone, or you're toeing the line, and you're gonna get kicked out, or you're gonna be exiled and whatnot. And so it's really hard to get out of, like, and for their own comfort and their own stability, people have cognitive dissonance and don't want to see certain things. But, like, yeah, I can understand, like, how people get sucked into it, and then they get all absorbed in, like, their new identity and what they've been told they need to be, and, like, all the highs and the bliss bunny things, like, of being right and justified and virtuous and seen as good, and yeah, all of those things. Like, so I definitely can have compassion and empathy for like people who are going along with some of these things, because it does, like, makes you feel powerful and empowered and everything. But like, really, it takes so much, and we don't even realize, like, we're destroying like some of our own foundation, and what would really contribute to our own well-being by giving our power away to a system. Yeah. That takes everything from us so we can be a part of that Borg hive mind collective. Doesn't value like the uniqueness, the individuality. It's like the shadow side of oneness and inclusivity. By making it all conform to be right, like when like real diversity and inclusivity is cooperation and creative like harmony. Yeah. And so like how they've been able to control us in a lot of ways is to make ourselves doubt ourselves, and like having like this mass consensus of like, this is what's true, or this is what's acceptable, and all of that, and using different stories like and archetypes to kind of keep us in like a trance and whatnot. And so clear your own energy field and cut the old cords and clean up your own house. Yeah, clear your cords of attachment, clear your own attachment to things, or let go and see what you've been attached to. Love yourself, honor yourself, and liberate yourself. Look at the new monster or the new villain, the new underdog, the new hero or the new savior, the new scapegoat, the new script, which really isn't new, and the new slave system. It's recycled bullshit, you know? And so they use love and acceptance and inclusivity, respect and equality. They use like inverted concepts of those things to push their agenda, which like a lot of people are well-meaning, but they have no idea what they're actually like participating in and contributing to and creating. And so it's just like, wow. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. I was so scared to be confrontational. I was so scared to be wrong or vilified and different and disliked. It was my fears of abandonment and rejection that kept me, from my life. And so the ugly duckling, the hero's journey, the search for the magical other, and coming home to ourselves, remembering the whole truth. And comparison is the thief of joy. Like, it's like this better and lesser than system too. And the oppression Olympics, that was like the most hilarious thing that I've heard in the last couple days. It's like, who's the most oppressed, and you get the most badges or the most gold stickers for that, like, kind of a thing. And that's like kind of what like the gender pronoun sort of a thing, and like all of the hierarchy and the BLM and the CRT, and it's just so like, comical, like some of those things. This is, I don't know, but the way I've seen things and observed that, like, those socialists on the left side, or what's portrayed to be the left, like those people that, just get sucked into, like, those things, like, that they genuinely, like, want to help other people, and they feel like that is the way to, like, go about fixing things, or, making things better for everyone or society or whatever, or maybe for themselves, who knows. But it just seems like they are the most angry, the most unhinged, the most dysregulated, entitled, rude, rigid, closed off, closed-minded, intolerant, and inarticulate. They're the most violent and mostly 1984 emotional, irrational, dysregulated. They're virtuous, violent victims, and they're bullies. And it just seems like, yeah, that's what they've been taught to do. Like, they're the new brown shirts, like, really, for Marxism. For, like, this, these new Marxist ideologies that are passed off as equality and social justice and all that. So it's kind of funny to me, like, to see this. And so, like, yeah, gender, style, expression, identity, yeah, that can totally be fluid. Like, our identity is fluid. I hope it is, because otherwise we would never change. And then, yeah, but, like, biological sex and actual gender is not fluid. So genderism, racism, classism, and communitarianism, capitalism, and ableism, Marxism, the false totem pole bullshit, shadow side of the rebel and the liberator, like self-destruction, self-justified, or self-righteous patterns. You're tearing down your own community, your own life force and potential, your own opportunities, your own power, and your own autonomy. It's a brave new world. It's hypersensitivity and desensitization, dehumanization, demoralization, destabilization, dysregulation, the shadow side of oneness and collectivism, community, communitarianisms. My body does not belong to the collective. Yeah, it's like the 1984 and the the Brave New World. Like, there's this amazing show, Brave New World. Oh, I loved it. But it's just like, it doesn't matter how you feel. You need to give yourself to the collective. And that's just like kind of like the messages that we've been kind of fed the last couple of years too. Like, and it has been like a lot of deception. And so, man, this is really the villain era, where like we're projecting so much shadow stuff like onto other people, like, or to the things that we're against, and we're actually binding ourselves to them and to that thing that we dislike or we hate or reject or we cannot accept. And so I was just like, okay, I'm willing to play the villain and accept like that villain aspect, and accept that others will misperceive, judge, or misinterpret me and see me as this villain, and so that's okay. I'm willing to be all I am. I'm willing to be free. I'm willing to be true to myself and my energy. I'm willing to be true to my well-being, authentic, honest, kind, brave, strong, real, and whole. Yes, I was lost in an empty house and I was hopeless, but now I found peace. Please, God bless Gen Z, and God bless all of we. Yeah, all of that mind control and mind fuckery. Please help us heal that and come back home to we. Because, wow, like these divide and conquer strategies, man. They have really been a challenge and a test and a catalyst. And so, there is one thing that I loved, and I snagged it and put in my pocket. Because one does not want to be disturbed, to be made uncertain, he establishes a pattern of thought. He becomes a slave to the pattern, and he takes the pattern to be the real thing. Bruce Lee. And so, yeah, that gives me a lot to chew on, because, like, yeah, have been looking at patterns for a while now, and, like, the archetypes are original patterns and different patterns that we, in interesting ways, like, there are certain core patterns, but then there's a fractalization of other patterns, but, like, they're still mirrors of each other. And so it's, like, really interesting to see how certain parts relate to the whole within the whole, for themselves, how they relate to themselves, how they forget themselves, how they're disconnected from themselves, how they reconnect with themselves, like kind of almost like a brain, like rewiring, and like with the neural networks and whatnot. And so, like, just like all of these things, yeah, it's imagery, it's symbolism, it's language, like it's a light language. It's like there's messages in some of these words and some of these and these messages and symbols and things, and it's just that's what feeds me is like kind of taking things to heart and willing to see what is being given to me, seeing the wisdom in it and applying and practicing and letting it work for me, receiving it for myself, letting it show me, letting it be revealed to me, letting it pierce and penetrate through my being. And so, yes, just saying penetrate, though, like, that reminds me, some people would be triggered in hearing that word or hearing certain words. And, like, I just feel like it's so sad that we have to be against words or against certain kinds of expression now because of our own triggers or our own emotional dysregulation or our own trauma, where we have to sanitize everything and keep ourselves comfortable or safe or whatnot, which really, that doesn't serve us at all. And there's so many other things I could say about that. Sanitization of language and sanitization of life and death and all and perceptions and all of these things. And that's like Brave New World kind of stuff and strategies. And so one thing that I've been pondering the last couple months too, like there was this mouse city experiment that was done. Oh gosh, was it in the 50s? I'll have to find that link and put it in the description box. But James Corbett did like almost an hour long podcast about that, all about like that experiment and showing like footage, I think, of the mice and like the journey of what happened during like when they expanded their population and like what they were given, the temperature. Like it was a comfortable temperature at 68 degrees. They had all the food they would ever need. They had like space. They had different things. But once they got up to a certain population, like things went into a dystopia. And they started cannibalizing each other. There was certain weird behaviors going on. Mothers would abandon their children. Like the stuff with the males was weird that was going on. There was stuff with females that was going on. That there was a certain group of females that would just like retreat to their own corners and like obsessively groom themselves. And they had like the prettiest fur and everything, and they were called the beautiful ones, but they didn't do anything, and they were all depressed and everything. And so it's just like so interesting to look at like some of that stuff, like with psychological or like in social behavior and all of those things, and like the conditions that were set up for this, for like this community and whatnot. But because it was all comfort and accessibility, it just went to hell. And so like if you remove like some of the challenges or some of the natural things, the challenges that will help us like through adversity to help us to grow, like we end up destroying ourselves. And there's no reason or for that. And so it is kind of funny that we demand everything to be easy for us or to everyone to be accommodating or whatnot. Like when really like some of the, like it's good to have a support and all of that for sure. But the challenges, like taking away the challenges or the things that like we don't like, that doesn't actually serve us. Like some of it, it's like too, like that experiment with the trees that were built in a certain corridor that never would have had wind. And all of the trees, like because they didn't have the wind and the resistance of the wind, they actually all died after like a year or so, because it never gave them enough strength to like grow and root in deep as they needed to. And so, that's interesting that we do like need some of that like counter force or some of that challenge like that to celebrate and to thank that challenger for helping us to grow and all of those things. So instead of cursing that challenger and that adversary or whatever, we can thank him for that part in the whole. But still, yeah. Know our boundaries and rise up like to meet those challenges and have the strength and the fortitude, to do that in the most gracious and authentic ways and whatever ways that we can. And so, yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see what we try to manipulate. Like the road to hell is paved with the best intentions, And so, I love you. Thank you for listening. Blessings and love and peace to you on your journey and this crazy ride we're on together, learning and remembering. So I'm excited for a lot of things, and I'm grateful for this illumination and this light and this period of growth and these cycles of life, death, and rebirth, and growth and rest, and all the rest. So blessings and love and compassion and empathy for everyone where we are on our own journeys and what we're experiencing and going through, and best wishes and well wishes for all of you. Love you. I'll see you soon.